Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. I hope everyone has had a good session so far. We've got from Huawei and we've got from Jason of Data Swift earlier on. My name is Ashran. I'm the CEO for Dattel Asia Group. And today it is my utmost pleasure to actually share with everyone the future of driving digital sales with consumer intelligence. Before I start, allow me to kind of introduce a little bit. I've been an entrepreneur for 18 years, naturally, currently running Dattel Asia Group. I also sit in the Commission for Digital Economy, International Chamber of Commerce, Thailand, and also sit on the advisory board of Global Innovation and Entrepreneurship Foundation. Prior to this, I was the CEO for MAGIC, Malaysian Global Innovation Creativity Center, and been involved in various kind of ventures. I hope that this afternoon, I am able to contextualize a little bit for all business owners out there that's listening to this session and how you guys can actually look at leveraging consumer intelligence. First and foremost, before we get into the topic, Dattel Asia Group is actually a data analytics and consumer intelligence company. Our sole purpose and reason for existence is actually to help you understand consumers and customers all the way from strategy to your tactical execution. At the end of the day, we want to be able to get you insights so that you can stay ahead of your competitors, increase sales, and reduce costs of your customer acquisition. And having this data ready, available for you to make those decisions, essentially, we've got presence in Malaysia, Thailand, Indonesia, and Singapore. So folks who wants to kind of understand better these markets, we've got the data for you, essentially. Just to get things rolling a little bit, with regards to the context that I'm talking today, there are three huge challenges that we see in the market. The consumer front is very fragmented. Every day there's new products that's been introduced in the market itself. Loyalty of the consumers or your customers itself is always in question. Whenever there's a new product, that's a tendency for people to switch. And naturally, with all these changes, you need to be agile, and speed of deployment is very important. And for you to change or shift, you need to be able to have the right data, the right information for you to make those critical business decisions. At the end of the day, where we sit is at the intersection of data and technology to allow and support you in doing what we call modern segmentation. Right at the heart of things is where we do our consumer intelligence. On the left-hand side is pretty much your data, and I'll talk a little bit more about this. And on the right-hand side that you see on the screen is actually the possible actionables that you can do. Some may do some of this, some may do all. It depends on the stage of companies that you're in and your goal during that particular moment itself. So enough about me and enough about Dattel. That's just to give some level of familiarization in terms of the context and sharing this afternoon. But my goal in this particular track is actually to share a little bit about the current landscape of SMEs and data, new accessible ways for you guys to actually leverage data itself. And last but not least, to share my perspective with regards to future opportunities for SMEs to be ready. So those are the three goals that I have today, and I hope I'm able to achieve them within this 45 minutes that we have this afternoon, So let's start with the current landscape of SMEs and data. So I talk a lot to businesses. My team talks a lot to businesses, and especially to SMEs when we talk about data. Data tends to only mean, Google Trends, Facebook Insights, and analytics. That's what's in the minds of most people. They're definitely useful. Yes, for the most part, SMEs are usually looking for free stuff. But in a market that is very noisy, yeah, whatever platforms you go in, the market is very noisy. You need to have the edge. You need to be able to go deeper. So that's one side of the universe that we're talking about when we're dealing with SME landscapes and data right now. The other side of the spectrum is with regards to your own business customer data, essentially. Yeah. And the interesting anecdote that I get usually when we engage with SMEs is, or most people for that part, will say that, I've got lots of data. And sometimes people confuse between customer database and data that we're talking about over here. Database helps, but database doesn't allow you to understand, who your customers are. And this comes from the point that usually, right, SMEs do not take time to do some form of CRM, do not take time to do some form of loyalty programs in order to track the behaviors of their customers. And if they do, right, even if they do, there's usually a challenge of not knowing what to do with it, or even the time to be able to go about it, essentially. Yeah. And this is where and this is what we've been observing in our engagements with SMEs and in the context of data. Of course, a lot of SMEs are very excited. Everyone talks a lot about big data and so forth, but it still tends to be a very high concept that people feel that they can't take action on it. Now that's on one front. On the other front, with regards to the landscape itself, is the whole digital marketing and advertising landscape. What you see on screen here, and if you follow some of the conversations that's happening in the market, privacy is a big issue, right? And, the big giants are usually talking about this. Jason, I think earlier this morning, touched about this a little bit and how you can look at monetizing data itself. But there are lots of intricacies and issues around it. What this slide is essentially saying, right, with the walled garden of privacy going a lot higher, access to good quality data for business owners, for SMEs, to be able to make meaningful decisions, either for marketing or advertising, is going to be a little bit more limited than what you are probably used for today. So now, how does this really impact your business? For you, you're like, why should I care? It's not my platform, but you are using these platforms to get the word out for your products. You are using these platforms to market and advertise your business. So it will impact your business at the end of the day, because you are going to be blind, or far more blind than what you are, and dependent on these platforms to tell you about your customers. And when you are blind, or you will not get enough that you can get, then you will not be able to get the edge in a market that is actually very noisy and very cluttered right now. And one way to go about it, and this is a conversation that a lot of digital agencies, large brands are actually talking about. How do we handle this moving forward? The answer that everyone is at top of mind right now is actually that there is a need to have first-party data, and there is a need naturally to take control of it. Yeah. And it sounds cool to say that there's a need to have this first control of things. It is relatively easy, still challenging for big companies, but of course, not so easy for SMEs, right? The larger companies have the capital and resources to be able to put the necessary interventions in order to kind of take control about this first-party data, and kind of take then action and get the insights that they need to get out of it. Now, when it's not so easy for SMEs, that means a lot of you businesses out there are going to be at a disadvantage. How are we going to deal with this moving forward, essentially? So let me ask a question to everyone, right? You guys are probably relying on, your database, ingesting it to Facebook to get lookalikes. You guys are probably, doing all sorts of things in order to be able to get better targeting for your ads. But do you really know who your customers are? And how would you actually define them right now? So if I were to ask you guys right now, right, do you really know who your customers are? Can you describe them to me? Now, in most of our engagements, the question that comes to mind when I ask those questions is that they're probably, you would probably be saying, describing a particular gender of that segment that you're targeting, the age, the race, location, income, and maybe some product-related pain point that you are trying to address. So, and this is common, not just to SMEs to some extent, even to slightly more mature brands who does not have teams in order to be able to dissect and segment their customers a lot better. And what do you use this information for? Naturally, you use them for your product design and positioning. You use them for your advertising targeting segments. You want to create visuals for your posters, for your ads and so forth. It's another component. And naturally, copywriting. How do you message them and so forth, right? Now, with just those baseline, the question that comes to mind usually is this enough? Is this enough for you to actually going to push and communicate the products or services that you have? If everybody is thinking the same way, if everybody is actually just assuming who they think those customers are, then you are not going to be able to maximize your ROI and so forth. So if I take a simple use case of going into Facebook, and if everyone is targeting the same large bracket, it's everyone competing in that same pond essentially. So there's no differentiation with regards to that. So what I'm trying to talk to over here essentially is what if you can refine this better in a way that can optimize your cost and naturally maximize your ROI. So let's look at this and imagine this, right? So let's say, you probably frame to say that, I want to target 20 to 49 years old, female in Malaysia. You can refine this further, maybe between the age group of 2,000 ringgit to 4,000 ringgit income levels, right? And your competitors are probably thinking the same thing. And that's what I mean by you're going to target audiences in a very broad manner. You may think this is quite refined already, but it's very broad. Now, what if I tell you this? What if you can break these groups into 3 distinct chunks, right? And let's take from a very simplistic lens. 20 to 29 years old with all the other parameters, 30 to 39 with all the other parameters, 40 to 49 years old with all the other similar parameters. And what if you're able to know between these 3 buckets, right? Their lifestyle behavior, their shopping behavior, their brand affinity. What else do they buy in their whole life? What kind of values do they have? And if you've got data to support this, you would then possibly realize that these 3 groups have some distinct features or personas that you can address them separately, as opposed to putting them into one large basket. And this is something, that Google and Facebook will not even be able to give you that level of depth that you require to create that differentiation factor, to improve the ROI. You're probably using some of these tools. It helps. But the reality is this, guys, right? Everyone is talking about digitalization, which means a lot more people are getting online, which means a lot more people are using the same platforms that you guys are using to target the audience essentially. And this is just going to get worse as privacy issues kicks in big time moving forward. And, there was even an article on Facebook, from Facebook, that says that by the end of, I'm not sure whether this month or next month, that they are going to stop supporting Facebook Insights. And I've spoken to some digital agencies that, the account management team at Facebook is already telling their agencies that, guys, go out and partner up with data service providers because that would give you better agility and so forth. So let me, with that landscape in mind, guys, let me just kind of walk through a little bit what I mean by over here so that you guys can appreciate and have a better sense of what I was talking just now. So let's take this particular entrepreneur that has an anti-aging serum product that's branded as Nina Ame. And naturally, just like when you ask any entrepreneur who's their segments, they say that, we want to target 25 to 45-year-old women who's earning about this income range and have concerns with their skin, right? So what we've done, and just like the example that I showed earlier on, is actually to kind of create 3 different personas for Nina Ame in order for her to be able to then strategize better. So you see here, a 20 to 39-year-old female with a household income of the range that you see that has a behavior archetypes. And I'll talk about this a little bit more of beautiful me. That means this is a segment of female within this age group that actually is already consuming beautiful products that is a possible segment to target, right? So their demographics and kind of what they do, the media consumptions that they have, the lifestyle behavior that they do, and what kind of social media that they're activated on. Their shopping behaviors, do they do online? Do they go to the mall? Where within Malaysia, for instance, these groups usually resonate? What other things that, or brands that is also associated with these groups? Because it tells a lot about how you're going to define your strategy, your campaigns, your communications, or even your product packaging. So that's just one, guys. You would see similarly for the age group of 30 to 39, some similarities with the first one, but you will be also see some differences with regards to brand affinity and stuff that they do in terms of their shopping behavior and so forth. And as you get to an older age group, it gets a little bit more different. Even, if you look at lifestyle, the things that they do, a slightly elderly group here that we're talking about likes to spend more time at home, likes to spend cooking, decorating their house, and so forth. And their brand affinity has similarities, but also some difference within those blocks. And once you're able to break all those things through, and if you see what we have here on screen, is that you'll be able to identify the values that represents those 3 age groups that we have defined, right? Now we've put here top 5 values that describes these different age groups, which at the end of the day defines how you're going to be communicating with this particular group so that you can resonate your communications, the products that you're trying to sell with different segments. It can still be the same product, but the way you sell can be different. And how you message them, right? How you message them would naturally needs to appeal to the values that they have. For this particular session, I'm not going to drill down too much with regards to the types of messaging, but what I want everyone to appreciate here essentially is that, with all the things that you see here right now, if you were able to get your hands on this information, then you'll be able to then look at trying to ensure that your digital sales, your campaign would perform a lot better than what you're probably doing right now. Yeah. And for this particular entrepreneur, right, with all the data sets that she sees just now and what you saw just now, she's able to ensure that there's 3 groups that she's dealing with. And when she goes to Facebook or Google or Instagram, she's actually designing 3 different types of ads to be able to then push through all these 3 segments. She is also allocating budgets differently to those 3 segments itself and communicating to all those 3 segments in slightly different ways so that the yield that she can get would be a lot better. So there you go, guys. An example, of pretty much what can you possibly achieve when you're able to go granular beyond the stuff that you get possibly from Google Trends, beyond from the stuff that you can possibly get from actually Facebook Insights or Analytics. So if you like this, right, This session, I want to try to highlight 3 ways that you can actually leverage on consumer intelligence to be able to drive your digital sales, right? One is on consumer behavior archetypes. Number 2 is about AI-driven personas so that you can do FB ads micro segmentation. Number 3 is actually leveraging on your customer data, but enriching that so that then you can enhance your lookalikes and your strategies a lot better. Now, behavior archetypes are essentially what we have modeled something to be able for you to kind of understand different types of behavior groups in a particular market. And you apply this for your product positioning, your targeted communications, and for you to improve your conversion. Now, when you're talking about behavior archetypes, you're probably wondering, so what are these actually, right? So we've modeled 27 for you business owners out there to use. If you have a particular product, so if you see accessorize me, baby me, beautiful me, those are behavior types of consumers. And if you are, let me just do a quick scroll here and kind of show to everyone the different types of behavior that you could look at leveraging in the context of your product. A good example here is that behavior archetypes doesn't necessarily have to have a direct correlation to the product that you're selling, right? I can have a coffee product that maybe is trying to target health, fitness oriented, so forth. So that's how you would use behavior archetypes in order to kind of optimize your whole marketing campaign, essentially. And if you think this is interesting, if you think this is something that you want to look at possibly applying that can help your products and services stand out from the crowd, we're actually having a masterclass session done by one of our colleagues on the 24th of June. It's on the masterclass track. So do look for us for regards to this if you're interested in trying to appreciate a little bit more how this can make sense for your own business. The second bit with regards to AI-driven persona is trying to look at helping you guys be more data-driven, but also simplifying the process of you doing your FB ad activation. Who out there actually faces problem in trying to choose and select the interests of the segments that you're trying to target, right? I believe most of you have that problem. We've spoken to a lot of business owners, even agencies. That is a challenge. What we've done is kind of help you process this in the most simplified way. Once you've identified with behavior archetypes and the age groups that you're trying to define, you just got to save that segment and push that to your FB ad page, and voila, the whole interest segment is actually populated for you to be able to then micro segment your audience a lot better. And again, if that sounds interesting and something that you want to deep dive further for your business, join us. We've got another track running that will help you guide on how to do better Facebook targeting using consumer intelligence. Last but not least is about richer customer data. Now, some of you guys out there, like I said, would have already accumulated quite a number of customer data. And some of you may not be familiar with regards to the term RFM segmentation here. It refers to recency, frequency, and monetary. It's what's usually used within the data universe. But if I put it simplistically, right, wouldn't it be awesome if you can segment, your thousands of customers into these blocks that you see on screen? Can you identify which are loyal customers within your thousands of customers? Which are potential loyalists? Which are champions? Which are high risk that you're going to be losing them? And the minute you're able to do this with your customer data, you're going to be able to do personalized offers to them. You're going to be able to allocate your financial resources or campaign resources a lot better. You're going to be able to, as opposed to just taking your whole database and do lookalikes, you're going to be able to take just different segments and do those segment lookalikes essentially in other platforms that you choose. And guys, if that sounds interesting to you, if you want to explore personalization to whatever customers that you have right now, so that you can look at optimizing what you have, then that's another session that's running also. Now, so those are just conceptually what I've shared in terms of things that could be done for you to drive digital sales. not relying on what's readily available out there right now, and 3 different tracks and 3 different approaches depending on your stage of business and your business goals. Yeah. Where I'm going to take this last segment here is sharing a little bit with everyone some future opportunities that we see moving ahead, that we think that SMEs needs to be ready for. Now, 2 future trends that we think is going to impact your business. And while everyone is trying to get online, running their e-commerce stores, going into marketplaces, one of the things that we're saying in the next year or 2 moving forward is that marketplaces are going to be old news. Branded storefront is going to be king. With all due respect to marketplaces owners out there, but this is how we see things moving forward based on the behaviors of merchants, behaviors of consumers, and so forth. The second thing that I want to highlight to everyone is actually regarding customer acquisition context. Most of you guys are leveraging on social media as your primary customer acquisition. And I want to tell you guys here is that moving forward, social media customer acquisition is going to be secondary. It will still be there because lots of people are still lingering over there. But what's going to be primary is the ability to monetize customer data, customers and communities, right? And this relates to what Jason was talking to earlier on. We've had chats with Jason quite a number of times. We share similar value systems. It may not be as immediate, but this is where we see in the coming years that SMEs and business owners needs to be prepared for. So this is what it is today, guys, right? Each merchant, whether you're using Shopify, Easy Store, WooCommerce, or any other e-commerce platforms out there, and you've got your own little customers, right? And everyone is hoarding their own customers, and everyone's spending independently their marketing dollars on the various platforms that you see out there to be able to get these customers. The future, as how we see it, is about networked branded stores. Now, what do we mean by this? We imagine, right, as we are progressing forward, a world where each merchant can upsell and cross-sell seamlessly to each other's customers and monetize that, right? And if you see in this real world, yeah, we do that. You know another merchant, let me help resell your product into my store. Take that concept, but imagine the ability to do that at scale. It is going to change essentially how you're going to be going to grab your customers. It's going to change how you're going to be doing your campaigns. It's going to change how advertising is going to be done. Now, this is how we see it, right? My question to all of you guys that's listening this afternoon, what do you think? Do you share similar views of what we're thinking of? And naturally, at Dattel, we want to create this new future world. But we cannot do this alone. So I'm kind of taking this opportunity also, as eBizStart is a platform for knowledge sharing, collaborative environment, and so forth, that if you are an e-commerce platform, if you are a digital agency that's managing multiple e-commerce stores, if you are a forward-thinking branded store, come and talk to us, right? I don't have all the answers. We at Dattel do not have the answers, full answers. But we believe we've got key ingredients of the formula in order to create this future network branded stores that will be able to kind of get every merchant out there globally to transform how they acquire customers and how they sell their products out there. So in summary, guys, from this quick half an hour odd so far, what I want to kind of convey to everyone this afternoon is that the future of e-commerce, I believe, is going to be about network branded stores. And in order for you to do network branded stores well enough, first-party data and rich data will be very, very important. And if you don't start your data journey today and be prepared for the future, it is going to be, you're going to be left out, number one. And when everybody else is yielding the benefits already, then you are playing catch up, right? Again, just to note, I am not saying that we can do the network branded stores immediately, right? But to start your data journey, to start your first party data collection, to ensure that you can have better sense of data appreciation in running your digital business is very, very important. So I'm going to stop here at the moment, and I would like to have a little call to action to everyone that's listening. Please do connect and meet our reps at our booth 399, or search for Dattel Voyager under the category Technology, Software, and Applications for a couple of things. Naturally, number one, talk to us if you're interested to discuss more, collaborate more about the whole idea of network branded stores. If you're interested in the stuff that I'm talking about, if you want to look at how you can leverage on 50% vouchers that we have, by all means, come by our booth also. And the deck that I just presented just now to everyone is going to be also uploaded at our booth, and you can naturally engage with us a lot more at the booth, essentially. So I'm gonna pause her temporarily. I'm naturally open to questions. If there's no questions, we can have chats in terms of some of the things that I've shared earlier on, and see how we can kind of work and collaborate together, essentially. I'll pass over back to the organizers.
Okay, that is a very nice sharing by Mr. Ashran, CEO of Okay, can go.
Yeah, so as I was saying just now, for the audience that's in the hall right now, come and talk to us, 'cause I'm really curious in terms of your thoughts with regards to the future of network branded stores and the ability, like I said earlier on, for different merchants to be able to cross-sell and tap into each other's existing customers and make extra revenue out of it. We've been talking to a few platform players and so forth, and some of them has been giving us positive feedbacks. But again, there are a whole bunch of other issues that needs to be addressed within this particular space itself. In terms of how do we ensure that that it doesn't disrupt the primary brand owners itself. Hi, Carl.
Okay, we just received questions from Andrew Wong, our organizer. Okay. He said many people are still using marketplaces because that is what they know.
Yeah.
And he do advocate branded storefronts, but he guessed that the challenging factor is marketing. How does Dattel helps in that aspect? And how do you do this network branded stores?
Okay, so let me address. No, so I agree, Andrew, that right now the easiest place where a lot of audiences are there is in the marketplace, right? But if you look at behaviors also of what people do in marketplaces, it tends to be sometimes a place where you kind of offload some of your older products itself. And if any of you entrepreneurs out there have the right guidance, people will tell you that, try to get from the marketplace and bring them to your stores as a strategy. So don't get me wrong here. I'm not saying that marketplaces doesn't have a role. I'm just saying in my slides earlier on that down the road, right, the landscape, the dynamics of the market will shift, right?
Yeah,
if you imagine everyone's leveraging marketplace today, they're now pulling people into their stores, right? Then the value proposition of marketplace becomes slightly lower as opposed to what it is today. Today, we're at early stage of where everyone is trying to get online and everyone is trying to look for customers essentially. So that's one aspect. Now, in terms of the second part of the question, in terms of how do we help then merchants or entrepreneurs out there to be able to get these customers through. What I highlighted earlier in the slides just now, when you are a B2C business, it is of utmost importance for you to be able to profile who your customers are. And the deeper you are able to profile that, the better it is for you to go to, whether it's Facebook, whether you're going to a marketplace and so forth, to know which segments you're trying to drive at. What we do is we help you give that clarity, who that segment is going to be, leveraging on data itself. We simplify that process so that all you're doing is, you've got your assumptions, you validate that assumptions. If the assumption is wrong, you shift it, and then you apply that within whatever campaigns or go-to-market strategies that you have. That is what we can do for businesses today, right? In order for them to leverage data itself. Like I said, eBizStart is one of those platforms that's encouraging everyone to go digital. There's so many other programs out there. It's also encouraging everyone to go digital. The market, while it's awesome to say that, your clients or customers are anyone that's online, but the challenge is also going to be that, well enough, your business, your product is going to be lost in that noise that in the online space that you have. Yeah. To the last question that Andrew brought up, in terms of how would one deploy this networked branded stores? Yeah. At the heart of it, naturally, is going to be data. It requires each merchant, right? And I talked about first-party data just now. It requires each merchant to have better visibility of the profiles of their customers. And this should be beyond emails. Yeah. you ought to be able to profile them so that merchant A can actually say, this is the profile of my customers, right? And if merchant B says, hey, I see the profile of your customers, merchant A, 20% of those customers actually match the profile of my customers. Can we collaborate together so that you can help sell my products to your customers too, right? And that's just two businesses talking together. What I'm talking about networked is that imagine if you've got thousands of businesses like this, having the right profile of your customers, because right now, if you ask any e-commerce merchants, chances are they say they've got a database, but they do not know the profile of their customer database itself. They do not know how to segment, right? I can be selling coffee to 1,000 of my customers, right? But I don't know what else this 1,000 customers like. What else can I sell to them? That is how we imagine the future of networked business. You know, you're actually taking a very fundamental thing that we do in the real world right now, right? And trying to replicate this in a manner that is seamless between each merchant and easy enough for each merchant to leverage the customers that they already have. Because at the end of the day, and if everyone is familiar with the whole concept of customer lifetime value, right? That means is how else can I increase value to the customers that I have already? It's not just about just selling your own products, but the ability to identify what else I can sell is going to be what's going to differentiate merchants and businesses in the future. So, bro, Andrew, I hope that addresses those few prompts that you made earlier on, and I do hope also that gives better clarity to audience out there in terms of the possibilities that can be done with data, essentially. And while the subject of data can sound very daunting to most of you, it is our brand promise to make sure that data is simplified so that you can focus in your core business and do what you need to do, essentially.
To start using data in leveraging the business?
Well, in advice, two things, right? If you don't have a huge customer base yet, think about segmenting your customers clearly. Number two, if you already have some customer database involved, look at analyzing those customers because you are not maximizing the potential that you can do with those customers yet.
All right, that is all from us. Thank you everyone for attending this session. Thank you, Mr. Ashran, for a very good sharing.
Thanks, Haikal.
All right, thank you everyone. That's all from us. Bye-bye. Say goodbye.
See you, everyone. See you at Dattel.